Welcome to the Week 1 streaming options pod. We're taking a look at some of the best options to sort of shift off of in Week 1. I got my buddy here, Jason Gilbalt, and I am here at Russell J. Clay. So let's jump right into it. Jason, this is sort of your piece of the pie here at Fantasy Football Cafe. So what do you serving up for us? What kind of pie do you got for us this week?
Well, I mean, look at some options. Obviously, a lot of things have kind of surfaced over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. I mean, you're going to have some good streaming options right off the bat if they are out there. Obviously, I will talk about other suggestions that are lower owned in terms of leagues, but looking at the best guys here, I mean, in terms of quarterbacks right off the bat, I was kind of surprised where Matt Ryan was drafted this year, and sometimes not even drafted at all. And that probably had a lot to do with him and his lack of touchdowns last few years. He's always been kind of that average quarterback, but still a guy who throws for 4,500 yards going up against the Bucs defense that really isn't that great. Obviously, you have Julio Jones and Devonta Freeman and Mohamed Sanu there now to kind of help things out. If he's out there, I think he's a great option for Week 1 if you're already kind of looking for someone.
Agreed. If you have a Tom Brady or something like that, you're sort of looking for other options in Week 1. I think that's a great ad. As you mentioned, he's done well against the Buccaneers of late, and Julio there, Devonta in the short pass game. We got a little more help with Sanu after the catch as well. So yeah, certainly more weapons for Matt Ryan. Last year was not indicative of. I mean, it might be indicative of who he is, but at least he's got better weapons this year. So, yeah, I certainly see an uptick in production from him.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see 21 touchdowns again. I think he'll sit in that 25 to 28 range. Yeah. I think that'll be where he sits.
Right.
So, if he's not out there, I mean, if you need to dig down deep, this one's obviously kind of one of the ones that's boomer bust, but Robert Griffin, I'm willing to take a shot on him on the road, even against this Eagles defense that wasn't great last year. But obviously, it's just one of those ones where if you're desperate.
Certainly. I mean, I kind of like it because I like Corey Coleman, and I promote Corey Coleman potentially based, even if it's not about him, if it's involving him whatsoever, I will promote it. So, yes, I agree.
In terms of running backs, I mean, you may have drafted before Spencer Ware has become a thing here. You may have not. If he's out there, I'm grabbing him, but I'm going to actually hang on to him for quite some time. I mean, I already knew that Jamal Charles is likely not going to be playing in Week 1. Ware has claimed that lead role from Charkandrick West. I mean, he was the more efficient back last year, 5.6 yards per carry on 72 attempts. The bigger back, he's going to get red zone touches, had 6 touchdowns last year. And then you get the matchup here against San Diego at home. They were one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. He's an easy guy to grab for Week 1 if he is out there, and one to certainly hang on to.
Yeah, Spencer Ware, a former undrafted free agent, kind of sat behind a bunch of those random, highly touted running backs at LSU for a few years, but always showed good promise. And I mean, obviously came out last year and was awesome. So yeah, certainly love this Week 1 matchup. As far as other guys, like James White, I don't mind him either. But it's tough. It's tough to say like for Week 1 streaming, but I guess in terms of a waiver wire ad, you might want to look at Alfred Morris if he's out there as well, because I mean, I love Zeke. I think he's going to be a great player. If anything happens, I mean, that Dallas running back situation is like a league winner. So I've been grabbing Alfred Morris everywhere. I think that's a guy you should definitely look at. Not to start, obviously, but maybe just to grab at the end of your bench.
Yeah, certainly. And I think that one of the other big talking points has been this Baltimore running back situation, which has been gross. This is just more keep an eye on that and how that shapes up. I think I'm going to look at Week 1, kind of evaluate how things kind of go about. They obviously re-signed Justin Forsett. Let's kind of see how things play out. I mean, there's been talks of him having a good role. There's been talks of them using 3-4 guys. Let's see, and then we'll make an adjustment kind of next week.
You know what I am starting to get annoyed with? All the Kenneth Dixon truthers. Come on, guys. Relax. He's hurt. He's a rookie. He's a 4th rounder. Like, I'm not saying he's not going to eventually emerge, but, like, Terrence West is on the team. He's a former 2nd rounder. I think he's got a shot. Justin Forsett just got re-signed. I mean, Buck Allen played well last year in sort of a a backup role. So, I mean, these guys have potential too. I'm not against one of them emerging. And I don't think once Kenneth Dixon gets back, he's going to just take over the starting job. So, certainly guys like Terrence West, if any of them are on your waiver wire, at least in, 12-team leagues, 10-team, it gets a little tricky because the quality of players you got are a little better. But yeah, overall, keep an eye on them for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously running backs is one of the ones where you got to really scrape the bottom of the barrel
Yeah.
for on the waiver wire ads.
Absolutely.
Looking at wide receiver, I mean, this one is probably hit or miss for you, but Marcus Wheaton actually wasn't a popular play in a couple of my 12-team drafts. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe people looked at him and go, he's going to be boom or bust each week, which, sure, you can make that case. Obviously, the Washington secondary is going to improve a little bit. They did struggle against wide receiver twos last year, but obviously adding Josh Norman is going to shore that up in terms of just the overall secondary ranking. But I kind of like Wheaton as a flyer if he's out there. I still look at this Pittsburgh offense, even though they're not at quite full strength. I do expect them to put some points up on week one.
I definitely agree. And I think that conversation goes a little different than what you said. I think instead of, oh, he's going to be boom bust, people just go, oh, Marcus Wheaton, no, he's really bad at football. I don't want to have him on my team. And then I say, yeah, but wait, he was actually pretty. And they're like, shut up, Russ. Leave me alone. I don't ever want to talk about Marcus Wheaton again. And I'm like, all right, suit yourself. No, I mean, yeah, he's second. He's going to be the second option in that passing game. I mean, I like Eli Rogers as well, but from week to week, he's good. There's going to be bye weeks coming up. He's going to be a guy you can throw in there. And I mean, especially like this week, you love that matchup against the Redskins. Antonio Brown's going to be taking all the pressure off him. It's going to be a pretty easy week for him. So, I mean, in PPR, I could see 10, 12 points pretty easily, in his range of outcomes. Four catches for 80 yards, I think that's fine. So, I don't know. I like him, as you mentioned, but, I mean, suit yourself if you don't want him.
Yeah, definitely. He's also a guy I think you should hang on to if you're looking, past week one as well. Other suggestions, though, I mean, there are quite a few guys out there that I like, and I like his pickups for, longer. Mohamed Sanu is going to be the wide receiver 2 there in Atlanta. In terms of production, I do think he's going to be decent. But if anything happens to Jones, I mean, we've obviously seen him battling some injuries here so far to start the preseason. He becomes an elite option. I mean, you'll grab him, you're going to hang on to him for quite some time.
All the emphasis is on Marvin Jones of those two who left Cincinnati, and I think that's a little unfair to Mohamed Sanu. Different types of players. Marvin Jones has the more flashy game, and his ball skills are phenomenal, so every catch looks amazing because it's all away from his body, and he's contorting himself, and he's jumping over people, and he's like a circus all in one. But Mohamed Sanu, I mean, love his ability after the catch, love his potential role here. I see him getting 90 to 100 targets this year and going to be a weekly thing for him. And so if you like Matt Ryan, I think that's a nice little stack. And I mean, we talk about stacking in DFS, but I like stacking in redraft as well and sort of season-long leagues. If you're an underdog, throw in Matt Ryan and Sanu and, hope they hit for a touchdown or something.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I mean, obviously at home, as we talked about with the matchup against the Bucks with Ryan, it really does set them up for solid fantasy production. In terms of other guys, I like Philip Dorsett. I like Tajay Sharp. I think those guys are intriguing options. Obviously, Dorsett has the better matchup against Detroit. And obviously, you and I mean, we've been talking about that game possibly being very high scoring. You look at that Colts defense, obviously, that's really banged up. You expect the Lions to put up a ton of points. And I like that there's not 2 tight ends there in Indy anymore. I think there's going to be a ton of 3 wide receiver sets. I think Dorsett's going to be actually a bigger part of the passing game than most people realize. And we may see that there in week one.
Yes, I like that call. I have him at the end of a lot of my rosters. I like him as well. Tajay Sharp, you mentioned. Tough matchup, but he's a great ad, number one. And there's, other than Delaney Walker, we just don't know what this offense is going to look like, So I think he's going to have a nice role. We'll see if it increases and how much emphasis they want to put on a rookie. But overall, I really like that call.
Yeah, I think he's an intriguing option, and as you mentioned, it is a tough matchup. But if you are in a deeper league, Sharp's a guy to certainly look at, and maybe stash him on the bench and kind of hold on for a little bit.
Yep.
Looking at tight end, I know this one's going to excite you a little bit. It hasn't quite, the Jared Cook steam has picked up a little bit towards the end of draft season. People took flyers on him, people didn't. If you didn't, I'm rolling him out there week 1.
Yeah, if you're looking for a streaming tight end, it's Jared Cook and log out. That's it. That's all. That's all you need. Against the Jags, struggle against tight ends. Jared Cook is a superhuman animal of an athlete. Aaron Rodgers is really accurate. If they continue to go to him, he's going to drop some passes. That's fine. But as long as he's open down the seam and continues to, get separation, it's easy money.
It is. I'm looking at the targeting the Jags. I mean, you look at last year. I do expect their defense to be somewhat improved, but not maybe to that potential where I'm just kind of staying away. They gave up the 6th most fantasy points to tight ends last year. I like Cook. I mean, there are some other options. I mean, I don't mind Dwayne Allen. If you really are desperate, I think he's out there. Kyle Rudolph's always a guy you can pop in if you're dealing with an injury or something like that. I don't mind those guys as secondary pieces as well.
Definitely.
So as far as defenses, I don't know. I mean, I just don't feel Minnesota's getting the credit they deserve in really any fantasy format right now. I don't know why. I mean, they're top 10 last year. They gave up the 6th fewest points. They're on the road. Tennessee's offense that obviously has a lot of question marks. I don't know. I mean, they're probably out there in your league. I mean, I think there's a few others like the Rams as well that kind of sit in that middle tier that people didn't grab. And both of those teams, I mean, are in great spots for week 1.
Yeah, I like that matchup against the Titans. That offense, I love Mariota. I worry a little bit about the upside there with him, but overall, again, their passing options aren't that great right now. I won't say Andre Johnson's rejuvenated because I don't think he is. So, I mean, he's their starting receiver in 2016. That's probably not a good thing.
Scary.
So I guess that's kind of what we're looking at. Any other notes or tidbits for us before we sign off here?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, I think the Rams play is pretty self-explanatory. I think if you're looking, the Bills might be kind of one of those hopeful ones if you need to toss someone in. I'm not a big fan of the Ravens offense. I think the Bills defense actually has kind of a lot to offer in certain weeks too.
Certainly. All right. Well, until next week, hopefully we have more exciting, waiver ads next week. But overall, I think this was a fun one, and we'll see you next week.